Hey guys, David Broderick with Innovative Canine Academy.
And Chad Hunter with Hunter Canine, and this is our buddy Horace. Today we're going to talk about commands. We're going to talk about sit, down, stay, come, heel, place, or the bed command, and no. But the biggest purpose of this video is we want to cover what those mean, making sure we understand what the word heel means. We talk about people having so many different commands for their dogs. We're actually big fans of having very few, a very actually small amount of commands for your dogs, and we'll kind of feed into that, talk about that now. David, why when somebody tells you that we have a dog, hey, my dog knows 37 different commands, why is that? As I say, sometimes that stresses me out. Let's talk about that. What's wrong with having so many different commands for a dog?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is the jack of all traits, master of none. So if I know 73 commands, how well do I actually know them? First off, that's kind of what comes to my mind. But also, a dog has to practice something so many times for it to actually understand what the command actually means. And so unless they're practicing it over and over and over, do they actually know what it means? And so the commands that we use are commands that we use every single day, throughout the day, whether it's in the house, whether it's on a walk, whether it's hiking. And so that's kind of what comes to mind when I think about that.
Yep, so to elaborate off of what he's saying, less is more, as we say. When someone says that my dog has 37 different commands, I promise you probably more than 30 of those commands realistically mean the exact same thing. So we get in the habits of, as I say, having conversations with our dogs. With all due respect, your dog has no idea what you're saying, but they do feed off of your tone of voice, your body language, your energy. So that what might make your dog excited. Hey, I love you, come here, you're so cute. Are you gonna lay down for me? Your dog's feeding off of your energy and your voice, not precisely what that command means. So again, for us, less is more. That's why we break it down, have very simplistic commands for these dogs. This dog here is a national championship dog in a sport called ring sport. With everything that this dog does, a 45-minute entire off-leash program, he has about 10 words that are in his vocabulary. That's it. So again, for us, less is more. It's a lot easier for our dogs to understand one simple command, but we have to make sure that that dog understands what that command is. So let's go into the commands now. Let's talk about what they mean. Let's go to the very first part. Let's talk about heel. What does heel mean? And if you had to describe that to your client, and to be honest with you, I see a lot of people, sit is a pretty given, down's a pretty given. We'll talk about those in a second, but heel is very easily misunderstood because they don't know really the true meaning. Everyone thinks that heel means a dog is supposed to just follow me or walk at my side. There's more of a precise meaning. David, talk about that.
So heel for me means your right leg should be next to my left leg. And whether I'm walking, whether I just ask you to do it and I want you to actually come and find that position, whether I'm doing a reset and then I say heel and I want you to find that position there. But basically it means find the position next to me and stay there whether I'm moving or not.
Yep, so as heel is a position, whether I'm going forwards, backwards, right, left, fast pace, slow pace. Heel is essentially just find my left-hand side. So a lot of people get confused. If my dog is over here in the distance, can I just say the word heel? And a lot of people say, well, no, the dog's not at your side. Well, it's exactly what we just described. If I tell my dog heel, what would I expect him to do? Come and find my left-hand side, as David defined. Their leg is essentially in line with my leg, and that's where I like them to be. If not to get too technical, but behind the dog's ear, in correlation with the dog's elbow, is kind of a slot of where my leg or where my calf would fit. Ahead of us is not heel, behind us is not heel. Marking that position, when I say marking, we positively reinforce the idea of every time that dog is in that specific position where we want them to be, we're marking that command heel with praise. The dogs learn very quickly what heel means and where that position is.
We call it a reward zone. So if you're here, this is where everything positive is gonna happen. You potentially might get a piece of kibble, but more so you're probably gonna get a lot of praise and a lot of affirmation that that's the correct spot. So the next we'll cover sit and down. Pretty much very self-explanatory, but let's go over that. What sit means, what down means, and where they should be, that type.
So to define sit and down, it's the obvious, but to be more precise, if you want to get in the technical terms of dog training, when my dog's butt is touching the ground, in other words, I don't want a dog that hovers. Sometimes you'll see their hocks or their back legs will kind of be just off the ground, even though it looks like they're sitting. I want my dog's butt on the ground. That's what defines a sit. And then for down is my dog's elbows are touching. Once my dog's elbows are all the way to the ground, once my dog is relaxed, now I know my dog is in that down position. So as we just explained and spoke about heel, we talked about that designated position on our left-hand side. I also don't want to ruin sit, but where that command is supposed to be. So if I say sit, I don't want my dog sitting behind me. I still want my dog sitting in that heel position right here at my left-hand side. So in other words, I tell them sit. Yes, my dog sat, great, but they're not in the heel position for sit. I'm just gonna go ahead and take that step forward and help my dog and put them in that position, or if they're ahead of me, back up, vice versa. So making sure they're in that position of heel when I ask them to sit or to lay down. And then obviously as we go into distance control, more advanced obedience, they're not gonna be in a heel position, they're gonna be at a distance, but just doing it as I ask for that. But again, doing it on the first time, and we'll talk about that here in a bit. So why don't we talk about, why don't you talk about the come command? We'll talk about that.
Yep. So I'm a big believer in dogs being completely off leash for hiking and all of those things. I love having off leash control, and so the come command is one of the most important things that we can teach our dog for safety, but also for the enjoyment of having a dog. I don't like going out in my backyard and yelling at my dog and telling them to come, and they're sitting there smelling the ground or chasing the deer in my backyard. That isn't a come command. So I want a very strong come command. And come to me means come straight to me and stick around me, whether I teach the dog to sit when it comes to me or just to stand and just stay with me. To me, it doesn't matter. I just want you to come to me so I can pet you, praise you, and tell you what a good boy you are. But I don't want the dog blowing past me and just running by, or oh, I'm coming to you, but there's a squirrel over here, so I'm gonna go chase that squirrel. I want them to come just straight to me at a good speed. Not every dog is gonna run to you, but most dogs will. I want them to come to me at a good speed, get to me, and just stick with me.
Good. I'm gonna definitely elaborate more on that because, like you said, for me or every dog owner's dream is I want my dog to have a perfect recall. If I tell my dog to come, everybody, it is their dream to have their dog have the ability to come to them. So let's talk about, let's back up a step here. If you think about it, as I say, us as bad dog owners sometimes, when's the only time we ever actually call our dog? And if you think about it, you only call your dog when they're doing something wrong. They're chasing after that deer in that backyard, they're running to the front door, they're chasing after the rabbit, or they're going to grab something or whatever it is. And at that point in time, your dog is in a completely, entirely different mindset. You've never even practiced the recall. And therefore your dog is definitely never gonna have a good solid recall because now your energy is different. Hey, come, get over here. No, get over here, come. And that negative energy is what makes that dog say, you know what? I hear your tone of voice. I'm probably not gonna come to you because regardless I'm in trouble. So I'm just gonna kind of keep heading the opposite direction. So again, we talk about when we work the recall command, when you come home and you practice with your dogs, do not expect, even after 3 weeks of your dog going through a training program with David or myself, to let your dog run around at a dog park or run around and act like a crazy person and expect a perfect recall at that point in time because you don't even have enough foundation with your dog at that point for your dog to have enough respect for knowing that what the recall should mean for you and your dog. So in other words, the best time to practice these recalls is, believe it or not, even if this dog's sleeping at my side right now, would be a perfect opportunity for me to just take a couple steps away from him. He's already just chilled out, paying attention to me. I'm gonna practice some recalls with him because he's already engaged with me, he's already focused. It's gonna be a win-win situation every time. So my girlfriend and I, we talk about going to opposite ends of the hallway in the house with a very young puppy, playing a game of recalling back to me and then back to her and just making it a fun game. So that way, if I get enough repetition in with that over a period of time, when my dog does chase after that deer, if I go and visit Uncle David in Utah and that dog decides to chase after that deer, I have a pretty much almost a guaranteed chance of my dog having now a positive association with that recall and getting back to me instead of just waiting for my dog to make a mistake. So again, the big concept I'm covering here, making sure we're practicing and influencing our recall while our dog is already in a perfect good training mindset. And that's gonna give you much more value for that recall as we continue.
Yep, absolutely. So let's go on to the next.
Talk about stay.
Yeah, let's talk about the stay command. So there's obviously a number of places that we can use it, whether it's a sit, whether it's a down, whether it's on their bed or their place. So let's talk about the stay command, what it means, what the boundaries are, if they move.
Yep. So we were actually, you and I were just chatting about this the other day. There actually are quite a few trainers out there. They don't even use stay, they don't use wait. In theory, they say if I tell my dog to sit, they should sit there until I tell them otherwise. So if I tell them sit and I walk away, my dog should, in theory, remain there in that sit. Well, I like the idea of that. Realistically, they are correct. But for me, when we teach stay, what that really means is don't move. So I'll tell you, I'll break it down. I'll use this dog for example. If I put him in a down and I walk away, I'm doing something, I'm cooking, I'm doing laundry, and I see that this dog is still laying down, but he's about 6 or 7 feet further ahead from where he was. Well, if I reinforce down, in his eyes, well, I'm still laying down and never got up. You've taught me that my elbows are touching, I never get up. So therefore, if I try to reinforce that down, he doesn't quite know what that means. So for us, as we say, and it's the French mentality, they say pas bouger, which means don't move. For us, that's kind of the same concept of what we're teaching. We say stay, it means don't move. So down, stay, don't move from that position. So if I see that dog moving forward, if I see that dog creeping, I just reinforce no. I mark the behavior. Hey, I don't like that. I reinforce my stay, show them where I want them to be, and then they have a little bit more precise understanding of what stay means. So
yeah, and exactly that. For me, stay means stay right here. If you do come 6 feet, you crawl a little bit, 6, 7 feet towards me, I'm actually going to take you back right where you were, put you back into a down, and ask you to stay again. So that way they're not gaining any ground, they're not making any progress forward towards me, because pretty much every single time I tell my dog to lay down and stay somewhere, they're not trying to go off and go check something else out. They're trying to get more and more towards me. And so I can just take them back, no, go back to where you were. And the same on the bed command. If they get off the bed or their place, we can take them right back there. We're not going to say, well, you were on your bed place, now you're over here, go ahead and just lay down there. We're going to take you all the way back to there. So
yep. So as we talk about stay, we're now going to talk about place and bed command. So the reason why I say place and bed command, David's clients, they utilize place. You guys know he utilizes, utilizes bed. Hunter Canine, we enforce place. So it's the exact same command. He just uses bed again. We use place, but let's talk about that, because sometimes stay and place or bed is misunderstood, because sometimes people think it's the same thing. So if I tell my dog bed, or if I tell them place, what does that mean, David? In other words, I give them that command, what would I expect my dog to do?
Get up on that, whether it's the bed, whether it's this right over here, whatever it is, it means get up on that and stay there until I release you.
Okay, and lay down. So again, as I explain to my clients, place means go to your bed, lay down, elbows touching, and don't get off of that bed. Okay, now I don't really focus so much on having to worry about saying stay for a dog on a bed, because on a bed, I want my dog to get comfortable. I'm okay if my dog lays like this on their bed. I'm okay if they lay with their paws overhanging the edge, but you guys have learned that a dog is not supposed to get off of that defined item, that object. It's a boundary that they're not supposed to leave. So again, stay for me, so as I like to say, stay for me is kind of more possible short term. Hey, I'm gonna go to the refrigerator, grab something real quick, or hey, I'm gonna put my dog into a down and run inside and grab a cup of coffee inside this coffee shop. Place is more the idea, get comfortable and lay down on this bed, because you're gonna probably be here for a while. So I think that's kind of how you explain it to your clients as well. But everyone misunderstands and says, oh no, stay. Well, stay is just a little different. Place is get comfy on that bed as long as you're laying down. Stay is don't move.
Yeah, and they could be on it for a while. They could be on there for an hour, 2 hours, depending on what's going on. So absolutely, they need to be comfortable there.
Good. So last command, we actually, it's a part of our vocabulary we use, is no. So let's talk about this. Let's break this down. If I tell my dog, hey, I want you to get off of my red couch, stop doing that, get off of my couch, get down. Well, first of all, I just said down, get down. That's a very common thing. Hey, get down, get down. Well, what does down mean? We just talked about that. So again, you're starting to dilute, teach a command to a dog to have far less value in what it means. So if my dog jumps on the couch, starts running hot laps, or tries to jump on somebody, anything, what do we tell the dog?
Get down, stop, don't do that. We would just say no.
And we would just say no. So again, less is more. My dog tries to jump on somebody, I just tell them no. You can use off if you like, but we prefer no. Like again, we make it simple for the dog. The dog understands that. Now, how does your dog understand no? Let's clarify this. Let's make this super simple. So let's use sit for an example. If I tell my dog to sit and they don't sit, I use reinforcement with my leash, my collar, give that correction, but commonly you see everyone says sit at the same time as you give that correction. Well, a correction should be synced with what word? No. So sit, my dog doesn't do it. My reinforcement is going to consist of the no, and then I'm just going to simply help my dog into that position. So again, the reason why we stress this, why we talk about this, is that if I'm repetitively saying sit, not only am I repeating the command, but I'm also giving corrections on my leash at the same time as I'm using the command sit or down or stay or whatever our command is. Commands are supposed to be positive things. If I give my dog a command sit, the theory is I want to give my dog the opportunity to do that action before I have to reinforce and maybe give that potential correction. So sit, if I do all these things that are asked of me, I don't ever have to have correction. We skip that point and we go straight into praise, and now there's my positive reinforcement side of things. Every time I sit, I'm praised. Every time I immediately down, I'm praised. And that's how we build for our dogs responding quicker to commands, is that just as quickly reinforcing them positively, as quick as we're willing to reinforce it and help them make them do it.
Yep. So another thing that's, in my opinion, pretty similar and kind of just the same as just repeating commands. So what I see the most is not normally sit, it's usually sit, and just repeating the commands. But going back to just not making up commands, we just say no. So we don't want to add in leave it. We don't want to make up a command, get off the couch, don't jump on me, leave the food alone, don't bark. We try to keep the amount of commands as simple as possible, so we're not having to remember it's this command, it's that command, but also because they shouldn't be practicing those behaviors enough to make it so that that word actually means something.
Yeah. And something I want to add as we go into this. We understand that, especially for your dogs that have gone through our program, gone through David's program, these are commands that they've been taught. These are commands that they have a pretty darn good understanding of, as we would say. But I have to be careful, because this is also a common mistake. People will give their dogs commands. So let's talk about, I'll say stand, for instance. We don't necessarily teach your dog stand here. That's something that we do as we go into more advanced forms of stages in like my advanced obedience class. But for instance, your dog just leaves the program, they go home, they're doing all the commands great. I want my dog to stand. I tell my dog to stand, and they don't do it, I give them a correction. It's kind of what we've taught you, just reinforcing the command. Well, first of all, what's the problem I have with that? Your dog does not understand what stand means. So sometimes people have more precise commands like load up, or to get in the car, some other commands that become valuable over a period of time. But we find ourselves telling our dogs to do these things and they don't understand them. They don't know what they mean. And now I'm correcting something they don't even know, and I'm now gonna create a negative association with that. So David and I talk about, as we teach your dogs these commands, believe it or not, we're not even saying these words until we actually have the behavior shape. So it's called behavior shaping. We show them what we want. We do a series of sits. Once our dogs are comfortably sitting, we're now putting the word with it, because now our dog's in the right mindset. They're doing it. Now I put the word with it. My dog is going to have that much more of a positive association with it, as opposed to some trainers, they train down. Their dogs don't understand it. There's conflict with it. The dogs don't want to lay down. As they say down, they're pushing down on the leash. Right then and there, that dog is going to have a negative association, probably for the rest of its life. When it hears the word down, it's going to associate that with conflict. And that's not what we want. So again, that's why if you're going to give your dog a command, they need to understand what that command is. But if you're going to teach your dog a new command, you have to take the time to show them what that means. When your dog starts to show you what that behavior does, now you're going to start to put the word with that command. So to sum it up, we have heel, sit, down, stay, come, bed or place, and the word no, and we've explained what those mean. Remember, never repeat your commands, but most importantly, make sure you always are praising your dogs as soon as they give you that behavior.
Yep. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks, guys.